Interesting conversations with interesting people. You don't know them at all.
Welcome to You Don't Know Them, interesting conversations with interesting people. I am Matt Lawson with my co-host Ryan Ayersman. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing well, Matt. How are you?
I'm peachy. Mm-hmm. Today we have Doug Schultz on, an old friend of ours, and we are going to shoot the shit and see where it goes. You don't know them, interesting conversations with interesting people.
There's the man.
There is the man.
Hi, Doug. How are you?
Dude, how are you?
I'm quite well. It's good to hear your voice again.
It's been almost 20 years. I think we're getting old, man. So just because I haven't talked to you guys, I haven't talked to you, Ryan. Ryan, what's going on nowadays, man? You in the area still, or you move out?
I'm still within this area of the country, if you will, from Stark County to now Chicago. I live up there.
Chicago,
up
that's
here,
awesome.
rather. Yeah.
I was gonna say that's usually when I haven't talked to you in 20 years, there's a lot to get through rather than just a short little Cliff Notes version. So
right, but that's it. Well, for the most part, I've been drawing.
Okay,
that's all I've been doing, baby. It's just been illustrating and pretty much that. You were in Indianapolis, Doug. Like after ISU, you went there, correct?
I don't know how familiar you are with the kind of little areas of Indy, but we lived in Lawrence for a few years, and now we live downtown now. And I wouldn't live anywhere else. We bought a house down here, so we're good. But this will be where we're at for the foreseeable future.
And are you? I know that you went back in person for teaching. Did that ever go back to virtual classes, or have you been in person this whole time?
I've personally been in person this whole time, but we do a hybrid. So I teach, essentially they only let half the school come into the building at a time. So I have classes of between 10 and 15 every other day. And then I teach one section of just straight virtual for the kids. 25% of the students chose to be virtual, maybe a little more, maybe a third of the kids chose to be full on virtual. So I teach a section of that.
How challenging has it been?
It's weird. It's challenging. A lot of the stuff that I usually do, I can't do anymore. I'm the teacher I hate a quiet classroom where you're kind of sitting in your seat while I talk to you. I bore myself. So I do a lot of, moving around, collaboration, stations, group work, group projects. That has kind of fallen by the wayside. So it's a weird classroom environment. It's kind of boring, but at the same time, we have 15 kids in a class where I'm used to having 30 to 35, so I can't complain too much. Mm-hmm. It's pretty empty. I would always make Office references, and that was at a time in 2010 where The Office was not as popular as it was now because of Netflix, but there was a select few kids when I would say a quote and they would get it. And I'm like, okay, you're the coolest kid in the class.
You're cool.
And somebody brought in their old karate belt, their purple belt, and put it above my desk. And it just put, "This is a message." And that was great.
But give us some context. Do you have that above your desk? Is it hanging up on the wall, or does it sit like in a frame on your desk?
No. This is that was in 2010, 2011. I teach middle school now, but I had seniors back then. I was teaching economics, and so they were when they saw that I was into The Office. One kid brought in his karate belt and he tied it up, and then they pinned it on the wall, and they had a little poster board and put "This is a message," and it just sat up there for the entire spring semester. It was hilarious. But no, nowadays I have a standing, because we do a study hall every blue day or B day, and there's this last, usually again all non-COVID days, we have the last 30 minutes are kind of free time where they can go to the gym or play games and stuff like that. And I have a standing offer that anybody wants to challenge me on Office trivia. And so far I'm batting 1,000.
Yeah.
The last kid who challenged me last year gave up when the score was 26-3. It was like, come on, man. There's not a lot of things in this world I do well, but this is one of them.
Where do you tap out in The Office? When does it become unwatchable for you?
Maybe 8. I am not. I'm of the opinion. One, I don't think it's ever unwatchable. Dwight carries the last season on his back.
Yeah.
And he's actually done. There are good episodes in every season. I think the general consensus is when you ask an Office fan, it's when Michael leaves. But I still think there's gems after all when Michael leaves. There's still some great episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like any good show, though, the best seasons were seasons 2, 3, 4, and 5. I don't know if there's a show that is any good show that has let's say 8, 9, 10 seasons. It's always seasons 2 through 5 are the best.
Yeah.
I have a very hard rule, and I am going to plagiarize this from David Simon, who did The Wire, that a show has 60 episodes to tell the story. Any less, it's not enough. Any more, it's too much. And my 2 favorite shows of all time are The Wire and Breaking Bad. One was 60 episodes, one was 62.
Well,
which one?
I want to let you know I am in my first watching of The Wire. I'm in season 4 right now, so I'm catching
season
up.
Of television. You're in the public schools. That is shockingly because I taught in charter schools in Indianapolis when I was here. It was like I was having flashbacks. Like that is the most accurate telling of a story. It's unreal. The show is unreal. I've watched it several times.
I think it's also one of the high marks because it involves the kids in general. Like it is hard to see them go through life not being able to make decisions for themselves and having their environment make decisions for them. In the case of Michael especially, and all of those kids, unfortunately. And Matt, I'm really quickly, you are probably like episode 2 or 3. So
I think I'm episode 4, I think, in season 4. So fucking good.
Let me ask you this question. Where do you fall on season 2?
Oh man.
I thought it was freaking awesome. I love season
incredible.
2. Season 4 is probably the best just because it's so good. But season 2, you ask a Wire fan what they think, and you're going to get, I bet, 50-50. Some people think it's the worst season of the show. I don't want to spoil it. Season 5, I think, is the weakest, but that's just because, the story you can tell is starting to get a little bit, they're trying to run.
They're wrapping things up.
But I will say, like so few shows can do, it sticks the landing. The landing, you could tell that they had the plan from the beginning, how they wanted to end it, and they backwards planned all the way through. And it's just like it's a novel, and you're watching chapters.
Yeah. Somehow, no one has spoiled the show for me all these years, and I find myself finally watching it, not knowing anything about it. And when season 2 started, my initial reaction was, okay, all right, so they did that story for season 1, and now this is going to be season 2 story. But it was okay. All right, I now see what the show's doing. This universe is getting bigger. Everything is just getting larger. You're getting new characters, but the old ones are still there, and it just naturally develops. And one thing that I love about the show is that it's before the subversion of expectations, and I don't think I would not peg you as a Game of Thrones fan, either of you. But like
Thrones
Game of
fan. I read all the books even.
Oh, really?
Wow.
See, because
you talk about an investment of time.
Yeah.
That was an investment of time.
And that really blows my mind, Doug, because I remember the 24 hours of hell that you had to go through when
Lord of the Rings.
When the Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King was coming out, and you didn't see any of them. So in one day we watched all 3, and it was just like pulling teeth for you.
I I haven't seen them since. I know that's a shock to you. I honestly need to go back. Like I know they're good. I just didn't have the perfect. Now, if you want to talk about the exact antithesis of The Wire, I was personally offended by the ending of Game of Thrones. Like I was personally affronted by the laziness that those sons of bitches did to my story.
Yeah, and they, the subversion, that's what they kept saying. We subverted expectations. And it's like, spoiler, here we go. Turn off the podcast for all you 9 people that are listening. The whole John's lineage, and then literally just, okay, he didn't do anything. And, if you're on Reddit, there is a subreddit, Free Folk, and they are still constantly shitting on the last 2 seasons. And yeah, I am salty as fuck over that show. I could not believe it. And Rao was early on that train. He's always kind of the trailblazer when it comes to shit like that. But he started seeing when Selmy was taken out in season 5, he's like, I don't like where this shit is going. Like they're taking the show in the wrong direction. And season 5 still was really good for a lot of parts. But yeah, it fucking fell apart. And I guess that's what I was getting at about The Wire, that these characters aren't black and white, good or bad. They're all flawed. They all have these, really complex, not any of them really are one-dimensional characters. They all have depth. But there's, they don't just kill off a person just to be unexpected. The writing makes sense. Everything just
That's true.
Really plays together very well.
Correct me if you've done the deep dive and gone down the rabbit hole. Do you have any background knowledge about Simon and the people who wrote the show?
No,
I do a little bit. Go ahead, Doug.
So Simon obviously was a homicide reporter for the Baltimore Sun. Spoiler: season 5 is about newspapers.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's him. He's the newspaper writer. But the other guy, the name is escaping right now. He was a police officer for years, and then he retires from a police officer and becomes a teacher in the Baltimore public schools. So they're the ones. That's why it's so authentic, is it's written from them. And then the writers they use aren't TV writers; they're novelists. So they're making, like I said, it's a story. And I don't know if it's his book or if it's just a fan book that wrote the making of the show. But the title of the book is All the Pieces Matter.
Yeah, I've read
there's
it.
Nothing. That's what a good show does, like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad or any of the the golden era television shows. They expect something of you as the viewer. This is not Walker Texas Ranger, where you just jump in and you see the good guy's going to ride in on the white knight and kick the bad guy's ass and move on. It's like you need to pay attention because this all matters, and it's going to
yes. It's totally a show that I have to remain disciplined and just either turn my phone off, have it charging, or not have it anywhere near me. Because if I get on Reddit for 5 seconds, I have to rewind the show. It's like, I know I missed something. I know that there was something really crucial and important. And that is what good storytelling's about. It's to kind of draw a similarity, but it's totally different because it's comedy. That's where Arrested Development stood on its own over everything else, because every line is literally a setup or a punchline. Yeah. The writing is just immaculate, and it just moves so fast. Man, it's incredible. I can't wait to finish it.
Yeah, and like I said, I won't give any more spoilers other than, like I said, the season 5 is newspapers, because each season obviously has a theme. That's not really a spoiler, but Ryan, where were you at on the finale? Do you remember the finale that well?
Yes, actually, I remember being satisfied. If anything, like wishing it could continue, just because it was over. I wish that it could go on. My opinion to that is it does kind of end abruptly, but all these people's lives, you're meant to fill in the stories for them. But the truth is, too, as good storytellers will tell you, as my preferred Sopranos, it's like you don't have to necessarily wrap up everything. It's more important to leave people with a really powerful story and then just leave them with it. And it's up to you to kind of, how you feel about it at the end. The Wire was The Wire all the way through. And it's weird that the weakest season with Simon is the one that he knows the best. And I think when you can look outside of stuff, outside of your own world, to be able to, you observe it more as a novice versus he's such a professional at the newspaper thing. It was kind of hard for him to write fiction about it, if that makes any sense at all.
I feel like season 5 was the one where he really, you could tell like that was something obviously deeply personal with him. Like he was pissed about the death of the newspaper industry and journalism. Mm-hmm. And he was on his, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but this is where he was going to really pontificate about where he stood. Where the other ones, it was like, it's, the war on drugs, the decaying of, local governments and the schools, the decaying of the unions and the middle class and all of that. But then season 5, it's like all bets are off. I'm going to bitch. It's more opinionated versus fact oriented. And what's funny is like with all the facts behind like working within the context of the plot and the story, it just worked better. Yeah, I'm kind of jealous of Matt that he gets to experience for the first time. That's fantastic.
I'm just glad to see Tommy Carcetti.
Dude, Tommy Carcetti, also in Game of Thrones.
Yes,
Did you recognize him?
Oh yeah, no, like dude. That. I've rewatched Game of Thrones so many times, and I'm currently going through the books. But Peter Baelish, another wasted character in the later seasons. But just seeing him as Tommy Carcetti, it's fucking incredible.
Yeah, and that's with me. It's like if you were on a show that I held deeply personal, you have a fan for life. Like I will watch anything Dominic West is in, who was, McNulty, anything. Lester, he was on Treme, I'm in. You give me a show that one of my guys is on, I'm watching. I don't care how bad it is. You're getting my viewership.
Yeah, that definitely sums you up to a T.
I was listening to the radio recently. There's a few radio programs that I hear from in the city from time to time. It's part of my schedule as well, Doug. This is my weekly schedule. I got my radio programs.
Yeah,
so close to my radio, like an old lady or something.
He's got the old AM dial tuned in for Sunday morning stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I was listening to one, and Wendell Pierce did a spoken word album with a jazz player, or rather like other way around. He contributed to this jazz player's album. And to hear Bunk's voice all of a sudden over my radio was quite exciting. Quite the thrill.
Look at you giving a fuck when it ain't your turn to give a fuck.
We've been having a lot of fun with Clay Davis from downtown. Shit.
He was born with his hand in somebody's pocket.
Been waiting for the other shoe to drop his whole life.
Oh.
I really, really wanted to address Breaking Bad before we got out of the realm of The Wire and stuff. And I think what makes Breaking Bad so incredible is that the rise of the anti-protagonist.
No, I mean, I think that was back, that started with what Ryan said his favorite show is with Tony Soprano, the anti-hero.
Yeah. But yeah.
Absolutely. And, you're correct about like the natural progression of both of those shows and how everything grows from, well, in the case of The Wire, it's more of the environment. You jump into all these people's stories in season 1 and it grows from there. Whereas in Breaking Bad, in order to understand it, you really do have to see it from episode 1, season 1, where a selfish man decides to do something and then it's the ripple effect from there.
Vince Gillian's storytelling is incredible.
But yes. That show was awesome. I did not finish it, but
what about Better Call Saul? Because I don't, for some reason, I have not invested time in that show.
Yeah, me neither, honestly.
I did. I watched it. It's good.
Uh-huh.
It is not as good as Breaking Bad, but I don't know very many shows that are, but it is definitely better than 99% of whatever else is on TV. It's also, there's certain shows that you want to watch with a group, and there's certain shows that you don't.
Yeah.
Like, I would say The Wire is not a show you want to watch with a bunch of people, because you're right, it's slow. It's a slow burn. Not every episode ends with a big explosion and, the hero winning. It's just, this episode, like I said, this chapter ends and we move on to the next chapter.
Yep.
The popularity of Game of Thrones is what was truly its downfall, because if you look at the first 2 seasons, and that's when they relied heavily on the books. But the first 2 seasons, it's like 95% dialogue. There's no action. The battle at Blackwater was the first true action scene of the show. And that is probably one of my favorite action scenes in the whole thing. And then when you get to the latter half of the show, it's just these huge blockbuster events. And I remember Sean Mackley putting it on his Facebook about the A-Team going north, getting past the wall, and he threw that video up that was da 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 da, and
when they formulate this plan that they're all going to go north to go get one of the White Walkers, or one of not the White Walkers but one of the dead, so that she'll give her army to go help them fight. I'm like, what? That literally makes no. I'm not a storyteller. I'm not a professional writer, but that makes no sense. Why would you go up there? When has she ever shown that she will give you any support at all? And you're going to go risk, and you're going to lose a dragon now. We know that's coming for no reason.
Yeah, god damn, man. Like, how long? we could literally spend the next 3 hours talking about Game of Thrones. Aside from characters doing things that are uncharacteristic, which is a huge one for me, I really hate when characters start changing just, their behavior. And that goes back to The Office. And that's kind of where my mind was going, when Oscar and Angela, like their characters start to morph, and these, that's not what Angela would have done in season 2, or, stuff like that. But for Game of Thrones, it was just the universe that you set up. You have to stay true to that universe.
There's rules.
Season 1, how many episodes did it take from Winterfell to King's Landing, just traveling there? And the universe of how long it takes. Fast forwarded to the end of season 7, they're north of the wall. They fucking get attacked by the White Walkers. Fucking Gendry fucking decides that he's the fastest man in the universe. Just in a fucking sprint, runs back to the wall, and then they fucking, I guess, just these fucking ravens on steroids are gonna fly, get to fucking Daenerys, and then she's gonna fucking ride her fucking dragon all the way exactly to where they're getting attacked in a day's time. And the next episode, they're fucking down in King's Landing meeting with Cersei. Like, it's just like everything just went in fast forward mode. And it's just like, God damn it, man. Like, I want to get behind this, but that alone lost it for me. I'm just like,
this isn't Donnie. There are rules.
There are rules. To that effect, season 4 of The Office, when they've got to go to Utica, Jim, Dwight, and Michael, and they decide to put on these mustaches. That I checked out. It was just done. Not to say that it was unwatchable, like, because you're probably right, Doug. It wasn't, but only have so much.
Yeah, I like the new blood that they bring in season 9. Like the new characters, Pete and Dwight Jr. They really do a good job. Really, in if I'm going to sit down and rewatch The Office, I will watch all of it. But the only things that I will skip over so fast is Jim and Pam's wedding at Niagara Falls. I will not watch that two-parter. Like I'm so over that shit. And Scott's
Scott's
Tots,
Tots. Everyone skips Scott's Tots. It's unwatchable.
it's terrible. And then
Funny, I gotta watch it then. Scott's
and
Tots.
the 9,000 minutes. Like, I hate that fucking. It's so cringeworthy.
That's Michael's Last Dundies.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
I think when they brought in Will Ferrell to replace him, that was a little bit much. Although I love the interview process where they interviewed Warren Buffett and he asked what the long distance policy was and would he be charged.
Yes.
That is
Am I going to be charged for long distance calls?
Yeah, and I guess butchering a character, Andy Dwyer's character in season 8 and 9, he is just so fucking cringeworthy, and I loved him in the earlier seasons, especially season 3 when he's introduced and when they get drunk in the office and I've been to the water, I swam from the ocean.
I remember you like that one when he plays. What's that instrument? Like singing about something about France, and then Andrew's like, "It's Christmas," and you're singing about underwear and France.
Oh yeah, he's got he's sitting down there with the sitar.
Yeah, that's
the most obnoxious, annoying instrument you could possibly But he's fucking ripping on it, man. He's just going for it.
Well, I remember because that aired when we were still around the area, and I remember you're like, he's really good at that accent. That's really hard to play.
Yeah, and
that's wild, really.
And the last time Andrew and I were talking about The Office, he actually said, "You got a bit of Andy Dwyer in you." And that was so astute of him to point out. But yeah, like I got a pair of fucking salmon pink pants. Like
that's another hot take as like an Office fan. Like it depends on what day you ask me, but Andy might be my favorite character. The hipster Office fan is going to say Creed because Creed is the best underrated character. He's got the best one-liners.
Yeah. Creed is like a love-hate for me. Like,
yeah. You can't say Dwight, you can't say Jim, but if you're like a true fan, you say some of the minor characters, and I think 90% of those people would say Creed, which I get. But
hands down in season 2, yes. Like they give him too much spotlight, and he turns into something like the hipster favorite. But like when he when they're doing the complaints in season 2, when Michael's reading them out loud, and there's that complaint about something awful smelling coming from Creed's desk, and it cuts to Creed with the interview, and just so no shame whatsoever, like, I know exactly what he's talking about.
do you want the line?
Oh yeah, please.
Creed has a distinct old man smell. Then it cuts. I know exactly what he's talking about. Every morning I sprout mung beans on damp wet paper towel. Very nutritious, but it smells like death.
Yes. Oh my god.
Distinct old man smell. That's an underrated line too, man.
Yeah.
Because there is a distinct old man smell.
With these shows like The Wire and Breaking Bad and the benefits that they reap, The Office would be nice to come to for its, that it's just something that you can watch one of, but the characters and what you're going to do. And for what it's worth, Matt, start Better Call Saul, but get into The Sopranos now. Start tiptoeing in there because David Chase wanted to be a filmmaker in his life, and I think that translated to the show in that he creates one show for while there's an overarch story to the whole thing. You can watch the episodes, and they each have their own story that if you never return back to the show, it wouldn't make much of a difference. So they're all kind of like their own thing sometimes. And
Well, I'll tell you, this is what I'll do for you, Ryan. I will get back my first day back to work. I will go straight into a fucking tree, re-break my hand, and
cool.
And get another 3 months off of work so I can get into The Sopranos.
You should be able to get through it the whole time. See if you can't break a leg as well, and maybe you'll have enough time to with those 2 injuries.
I was about to say I was going to drop just another reference, but I know Matt and I have talked about this. It goes back to the high fidelity, man. It's not what you're like; it's what you like that matters. Like if somebody tells me they don't like Breaking Bad, The Wire, or something like, I'm like, I automatically know I'm not going to like you. It's like people that are people that are bad tippers or assholes to servers. I'm like, I don't need to know anything more about you. I hate you already, and I don't need to talk to you anymore. There's just certain barometers that I just meet. Done. I don't need to talk to you anymore.
Well, it's like a language. It's like a language too. I've realized through not knowing anything about sports, there's a whole language and culture and a way of camaraderie that is just foreign to me. Or, when I go and see it, I'm definitely someone experiencing it versus like live the culture of it. And with these shows, like, of course, people like to quote things, but like while that's fun, there's just more larger conversations that can be had from these television shows. I was just discussing like, if there's any 2 shows that really had their thumb on the culture as to how life feels and what we're going through as Americans, it would have been the Sopranos and The Wire. And it might be it might be an era that will return, but we're definitely not in it anymore. There's always a morality story to be told with a tight ending now. And, like I don't know what I'm saying. Like, you watch Netflix and you just consume like all these half-hour shows. Schitt's Creek is what I'm kind of thinking of. And that's fun, easy entertainment. But like, it just, you can watch 3 of those episodes in an hour versus The Sopranos will give you this big honking prime rib. And it's just so satisfying to be able to sink into. Mm-hmm.
No, you're right. Like what I was going to say, because I've seen Schitt's Creek through like maybe 2 or 3 times, and it reminds me a lot of The Office in that, and I think it's the same way with Arrested Development. You come for the laughs, but then you stay for the story. Like I don't even laugh that much at The Office, but I know the characters. Like they're my buddies.
Right.
So
and there's a lot of similarities to the. I don't know if you ever got into Lost, but
I did not. No, it's a blind spot for me.
Yeah, and Andrew and I, like, we got so fucking obsessed with that show and just would finish it and immediately start it back on season 1, episode 1, and start rewatching it again. And there are people that, seasons 1, 2 are just the best television show ever, and then 3 totally loses me. It becomes totally unrealistic. And then there's people that just stick it out to the very end because they're so just 100% engrossed in the characters. And it doesn't matter how fucking stupid the story gets. It's just, you're so invested. You want to see what's happening to Sawyer. You want to know what, like every character on that show, you are just 100% into. So yeah, I mean, I will watch The Office all the way through, even though a lot of the times I'm just like, God, this is driving me fucking crazy. But it's like, no, I want to be in Scranton. I want to be a part of that universe.
Well, I know, and not to get too sentimental on it, but it's like, I know it's a comedy and it's meant to be slapstick, mockumentary style, but like, I started watching The Office in 2008, 2009. So it had been on for a few seasons. And I remember when I first started watching it, because I was watching in season 3 is when I first started watching, when Ryan went to New York, when he got the job. And it was as a person who was sitting at home with no job and no prospects of a job, and like sitting at my mother-in-law's house, like where I was living for a while. that's all I could ask for, was to have an office like that where everybody is kind of buddies. And it was, so it is a very kind of sentimental show for me personally, that I'm assuming is sentimental for millions of people as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really good point, because everybody wants that. Everybody just that very attainable reality. And
yeah, that's the key. I wasn't looking for a 6-figure Fortune 500 job. I wanted a normal middle-class job that I could have fun with and enjoy, and that was it. And that was what I saw in that show.
Yeah.
And so at the time, when you're at your lowest point, that was a bright light. And it's been like that. I mean, like I said, it's a slapstick dumb show, but it's very special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched The Sopranos and The Wire probably about 10 years ago, and I do associate it with like the climb up. And when you were at it wasn't an emotional low, but it was just starting. I was 26 or 20. It might have been more than 10 years at this point.
Yeah.
But certainly, like, it was when you're first starting to understand. I'm out of college and I'm starting to understand the world and learn how it works a little bit more on your own. And sure, I definitely that was part of the education, those two. But to be honest with you, like, I see things pedestrian kind of, but I really, as Matt said, I don't have I do, by the way, I do have a TV. It's about the size of a postcard, the screen. And I was watching Three Stooges on it last night on MeTV. So, I watch the Twilight Zone from time to time.
Yeah, you got aluminum on the bunny ears, try to get the signal to come through.
Dude, I'm serious.
There's a coffee shop it's like a coffee shop bar that I go to, because in the summer, I'm off, so I go there on like a Tuesday afternoon, and it's like my little spot. And the reason why I love it is they don't show sports. They show Me TV and Cozy TV.
Dope.
And like,
yeah,
I walked in and they're watching, I'm watching these like TV shows. And I'm like, would you like more coffee? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm invested in this movie that I'm reading the captions on. But I don't know what it is, but it's like, it's homey. You walk in, everybody's nice. It's small, and they're watching, like Three Stooges. There's always like, Gunsmoke is on one of the channels.
So on that note, I had this just cozy, kick-ass job that it's a mom and pop diner, and during the day, it's just once your help leaves, it's just you. So like, I had the entire restaurant, and I'm taking care of all the tables. And it was a day where there was nobody coming in. And this hippie couple came in, and like the dude just had these unreal both of them did unreal dreadlocks. But, they probably, like, they probably have like a pot farm somewhere, and like coming into town for supplies and shit and getting a bite to eat. Like they don't really get out that much, but the friendliest, nicest people in the world. And I just so happen to have Roadhouse on the television. and these two hippies that probably don't own a TV fucking sat in that diner and moved to the bar to just get front row to where they can actually watch just the TV in the corner. And we fucking sat there for an hour watching the climax of Roadhouse, and I'm filling them in on everything that they missed. And
had they never seen it?
No, they know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was the most amazing. And I told him the backstory. I'm like, my buddy that went to college, this is just like a religion. Like
if you get to that situation where you're like, hey, this is life or death movie trivia, you pick one or two. What is the scales going to be for your life? It would be Roadhouse or Point Break. I have a very hard time thinking anyone could beat me
It's like that. The devil went down to Georgia, like challenge with me and the devil, and I got to do. Hey, you want Point Break or Roadhouse? Because there's no way you're beating me in this one. I did that. I actually did something similar. That there's another place kind of down here on the east side of Mass Ave that I really like to go to. They have Fish Fry Fridays, and Vic and I were only people in the restaurant, and they always play these VHS movies against the back wall, and they were playing Field of Dreams when Kinsella goes to see Terrence Mann. I'm like, they usually don't have the volume up, but I was like, dude, you guys, there's no one else in here. Pop this volume up. I got to know what that Moonlight Graham scene.
Oh my God. Dude, Field of Dreams is just that will fucking make me choke up every goddamn time.
If you don't choke up when he asked his dad to have a catch, you don't have a soul.
Yeah, seriously. And I'll just get Big D on the phone right then and there. Like, how you doing? Like, Jesus Christ.
And I don't want to go back too much on this, but Roadhouse, you know how I feel about it. Mm-hmm. But it is it's part of its charm is how campy it is and over the top. I mean, the guy runs a monster truck through a car dealership. But I have had a serious argument with people, and I will fight this one tooth and nail. Point Break is the first modern action movie, and it was ahead of its time. And the reason why people laugh at it is because they don't get it. It was the first movie that I know of, I could be wrong, I'm not a film historian, that uses the camera. I don't know what the camera's called, but like when you're following, like what Bourne Identity does, that closed camera where you're running with the person. That's in Point Break in 1991. It's the pogo, the pogo cam. They're running with Swayze as he's running away, and it's really and then it has Swayze's he's jumping out of the things. He's like, there's no cut. He's jumping out of the building, and it's like you're laughing at it because it's got freaking Gary Busey in it, and it's Busey at his all-time peak Busey. You got Keanu Reeves and his wooden dialogue, but by the end of it, you want to move out to L.A. and join Swayze's biker or surfer bank robbery gang, and I'm all for it because he has got the towel of Bodhi.
I've never seen it.
You need to.
Yeah, I've never seen that movie. Yeah, I'm gonna find that.
It's one of those things where it's like we talked earlier about like the anti-hero. Swayze is supposed to be the bad guy, but he's so freaking cool, and he's like philosophical, and he's got these great like one-liners and just like this deep thought. And you're like, at first you laugh, you're like, damn, that's really cool, man. He's kind of like that McConaughey, Dazed and Confused style with him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I never thought I would love Roadhouse unironically as much as I do, and I will just fucking watch the shit out of that movie every time. But
no, so Swayze in Point Break is very similar to Wade Garrett in Roadhouse. He's kind of a secondary character. But then if you look at it through, also there's been, it's because the person who directed it is God, what's her name? She did The Hurt Locker. She won Best Director in the Oscar.
It's James Cameron's wife or ex-wife. I don't remember what her name is though.
She viewed it as you can view it as it's a love story between Swayze and Keanu Reeves' character.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it from that prism, it's actually really cool. And then on top of that, Fast and Furious 1 literally plagiarized the entire movie and just swapped out surfing for car racing.
Okay.
Literally, it's a shot-for-shot remake. I mean, an absolute shot-for-shot remake.
God, they're milking that series.
That should have gone to Swayze and Keanu. They should be raking in the billions.
Making Breakpoint like 7.
This time it's personal.
The role that movies and shows play in a sentimental value and enrich our lives. And yes, it does. It's totally that high fidelity, what you like, not what you're like analogy, because we're not living in the golden era of America where, you get a fucking minimum wage job and you can, send your family of 4 to Disney World every 3 months and have a house with 2 cars in the driveway. Just the best part of life sometimes is what these people and, movies and shows, the light that they bring to life. It's something else. I remember a quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson where he talks about entertainers and comedians having more levity and lift than the aerospace program, just in the sense that what they can do for society by just being observers and showing us just, an office space, and making it be so fucking magical for so many
deeper
people.
Thing. Mm-hmm.
I know we've said the term mockumentary a few times. One of the teachers in my department walked in over Halloween last year and was wearing the skeleton shirt from Spinal Tap, and I gave him a nod, like, that's a nice shirt, dude. For my money, I don't know if there's a funnier scene in a TV show or a movie when Stonehenge comes down. I don't
absolutely.
know. And then the argument afterward.
Yes, the argument afterwards
is so good. What does Smalls say? Are we going to do it tomorrow? I like that.
Yeah.
Honest question here, dude. I mean, yeah, that when it is coming down from the ceiling and then it lands and they start dancing around it, I lose it I've seen the movie, so I lose it every time. Hey, Matt, this has been fun, man, but I got to get out of here, dude.
Hey, thank you so much for doing this.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. I had a good time.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Ryan, dude, good to talk to you, man.
Good to talk to you too, Doug. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure. It was all mine.
Well, hopefully we get to do this again because, there's so much more we could talk about.
For sure, man. Take it easy, guys.
All right,
yeah,
later,
thanks
dude.
a lot again. Take care, man.
Take it easy.
No, 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 no. You don't know them. Interesting conversations with interesting people. You don't know